Hey, thanks for checking out Nuts and Bolts with Tone. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Toyota hybrid high voltage batteries and the codes associated with what you're going to get and then how you're going to approach this. Now generally from 07 all the way up you're going to get a code and it's going to be a P0A80 and it's going to say replace hybrid battery. Straight up, just replace hybrid battery. Most of the newer ones, that's the code that you're going to get. Now the disclaimer I want to give you is that any time that you test a hybrid vehicle for the battery, you always need to look at the 12 volt battery. So get that 12 volt battery and test it. You don't need to get a load tester, just get your handheld battery tester and see, because now these things don't use a lot of cold cranking amps. It doesn't take a lot to start the battery because the high voltage system kicks the starter. There's a lot of stuff involved. But if you have a failed 12 volt battery, that can mimic all kinds of problems. In any vehicle, that can be a big problems. You always want to make sure that your connections are good, your connections are clean, and your battery is good. Now I will say this, that in all the time I've been doing this, I've never seen a Toyota hybrid with corroded terminals. Generally because the battery is in the trunk under a cover, and so it doesn't get corrosion on it, but you still need to make sure that you check that and that you're checking those connections. Now in this specific one, this was a 07 Camry. This one had a code P0A7F, hybrid battery pack deteriorated, and then the replace hybrid battery code. Now what you want to do is, now they're all different. When you look it up in Identifix, you're going to look up your trouble tree or whatever, whether you use Identifix or Mitchell on Demand or whatever you use. For the codes, they're going to have you look up the state of charge of the hybrid battery, and they're all different. So look it up for your specific vehicle. But what you want to do is and I'm going to show you this in just a little bit. I'm going to show you an actual graph. But what you want to do is you want to set your scan tool up in graph mode, and you want to scope the battery pins. So in this one, there was 12 battery blocks. Now all those battery blocks, they're all individual batteries, so they all have to be within a certain range of each other. If one battery is off, it throws the whole pack off. So you need to make sure that they're all within, and this one here, it was within a half a volt of each other. So what I did was right off the bat, I put it in min-max. I put it in graph mode because it'll show you the PID numbers, right? So 15.7, and it'll be constantly changing. But it will show you the minimum maximum. So all right, so when you're diagnosing a hybrid battery or any sort of a hybrid battery fault, usually it'll say replace hybrid battery or battery pack deteriorated. What you want to do is you want to go into the high voltage. In a 07, there's only a high voltage ECU. In a new one, there's a high voltage ECU and a high voltage battery ECU. So in this one, we're just going to go into the high voltage ECU. And what I did was, you want to put your scan tool in graphing mode. So that way it gives you the minimum and maximum of all of the readings. That's the minimum maximum. So right here is 13.8 up to 14.4 of the time it's been operating. That was how I was actually able to catch this one, because when you go down here to the battery blocks, so it shows you here, so this is the battery block max. All right, and now you start getting into the battery block numbers. So right here, this is battery block 1, and you can see that the minimum maximum is 1568 to 1659. Now as this runs, that number will change. Well, battery block 12 was down at 13 volts this morning when I was checking it. So that was actually why we were going to replace it. So right now it's only reading 15.9 as the lowest, or 15.29. But you can see it's still lower than all the rest. All the rest are pretty close to the same. So this is a dormant battery. So you can see, yeah, it's not going to show me the failing right now because at this moment it's not failing, but it was failing earlier. So all the battery blocks should be within 0.5 volts of each other. If any of the blocks are within a half a volt difference, then your battery is bad. And then as a disclaimer, don't put a dormant high voltage battery in. I mean, you can see this one here is down to 15.29. And I think there was another one down at 15.29. But they should all be almost exactly the same. So that is how you look at a high voltage battery and look at the battery blocks. From the time you started, the lowest battery voltage setting and the highest voltage setting for each battery block, it will record that. And so in mine, I got really lucky because right off the bat, block 12, actually I had more than 12 blocks, I think. I can't remember, I didn't really look. It had more than 12 blocks, but block 12 was bad. Block 12 was all the way down to 13.5 or 13.7. I didn't write it down because it didn't matter. So, but all the rest were at 15 something. So that right there shows you that period block 12 is bad. So now the disclaimer I want to give you is until now, I always wore the protective equipment. You're supposed to wear what I always did, and everybody I ever knew wore latex gloves, and then you would wear the high voltage gloves, and then you would wear a protective glove over that. Now the reason that you wear the protective glove is in case the high voltage glove tears or has a tear, a leak, a hole, a pinhole, it doesn't matter. If you touch high voltage, and if there's high voltage there and you touch it and there's a leak in the gloves, it's gonna find you and you're gonna get killed, or you could get killed. So you wanna make sure that if you're gonna wear the protective equipment that well, the other thing is that your high voltage gloves, they're supposed to be serviced like every 6 months or something like that. You can have them tested, you can have them sent out to be tested. I don't know. We do a lot of high voltage batteries and don't wear the gloves. But you know, just as a disclaimer, you should wear the protective equipment if you feel that you want to do it the proper way, which is to wear all the protective equipment. So most of the time, Toyota Camrys, Priuses, things like that, the battery's gonna be in the rear of the vehicle, under the rear seat, under the trunk panel. So you're gonna be taking out, you know, the rear seat, or in this case, folding it forward and taking off a whole bunch of panels to access it. And I'm gonna show you that. We're gonna get into this. Let's check it out. All right, now this is a 07 Camry. So in the trunk here, we've taken out the lower pan. And then we're gonna pull out this cover here. So we're gonna take this cover out right here. Got a nice Dorman hybrid battery in here. So while we're replacing it, don't use Dorman for anything electronic, period, especially not hybrid batteries. All right, let's get the rest of these covers off. We're gonna have to take off this cover over here. Looks like somebody's already been in here and didn't take it and didn't put it back together properly because there's no clips in anything. Makes it easier to disassemble and reassemble. So here we go. Here's the hybrid battery here. Got a blower motor that mounts on top. Goes up here. That's to keep the hybrid battery cool. There's the ventilation that goes inside. And it pulls in the air from over here. I got to take out the rear seats because we got to get back there to get everything disconnected. All right, so on this 07, what you're going to do here is you have this here, and then you have another one supposed to be here. You pull these, and it releases the seat. Come around here, seats drop down. We're gonna come in here and we're gonna take all these clips out. Looks like 1, 2, 3 clips. And then we should have access. So I like to use these multi-tool pliers. And they work real well. You just slide right under there like this, and then you squeeze, and it gives you the leverage, pops right off. All right, so now you can see the hybrid battery. It's all right there. There's the orange cables. This is the blower motor. We're gonna be disconnecting all this stuff. Make sure you double check everything. Don't yank on a connector. Here's what it looks like from this side. Now right now everything is hot. We haven't disengaged anything. Let's do that now. All right, so this is the battery disconnect. You're gonna pull it up, and you're gonna pull it down. There we go. Now the hybrid battery is isolated and disconnected. Now we can go and we can take this thing out. All right, a couple little precautions here. As you can see right there, how this venting duct is not on all the way. I just popped it on all the way. Make sure you put these on all the way. They're very important, because otherwise it's not pulling straight airflow and then getting into the battery to cool it off, and therefore it can overheat. Make sure that you double check everything when you're connecting ventilation ducting. All right, so basically you're gonna unbolt the blower. You don't have to take that off up there. You're gonna unbolt this 10 right here, and from the back, these two 10s, disconnect the electrical connector that goes right there. You're gonna pull this back, and then the blower motor just slips right out. It goes up under there. You got one clip here that goes to the front of the blower motor right there, and then you have one clip on this ducting piece here. Pop these out, take this off. Then you pull your blower motor out, set it up here, and then now we are ready to disassemble everything and get this out of here. That's it from this side. So you got 110 here and 110 there. You're gonna unbolt this, and this lifts up. And then now we're gonna take off this cover here. Here, there's a ground wire, and we're gonna take this off, and that's gonna unbolt this cover, and it's gonna give us access to removing these orange cables. All right, so now with this pulled back here, oh, there's two 10s right down there. All right, so this thing just got put on hold. Guess it's under warranty from another shop. This thing was done a year ago. Imagine that, a dormant battery failed in a year. All right, so let's just go over what it's gonna take to finish this job so you know. So you got 2 more 10s right there, and this cover is gonna come off. All right, I'll just show you so you see what it looks like. You're gonna take this cover off here. There you go. You got 2 12mm nuts right there. Okay, you got positive cable there. Got an electrical connector there. You're gonna disconnect all those cables, and then you're gonna unbolt all the perimeter 12mm right there, right there, right there, and right there, and also around the back. And then you're just gonna lift this thing out and then put it back together. That's how you do a high voltage battery in a Prius. This is a Camry, an 07 Camry. That's how you do the high voltage battery. So there they are right there. All right, let's get this thing back together. All right, so here's the other mounting hardware. There's a 12 there and a 12 millimeter there. You're gonna undo all those. You're gonna pop this ducting off here, and you're gonna have to swap this ducting out here. You're gonna take it out, and then you're gonna put everything back together the way you took it apart. Make sure that these are fastened properly. When you do this, be very careful. Okay, so in this case, I got lucky. Somebody had been in there a year before me. Right when I was almost about to take the battery out, I got told to stop. Customer had had it done a year ago, and of course it was a dormant battery, so surprise, surprise, it failed a year later. But somebody they didn't put all the clips back in, all the plastic panels, so it was pretty easy for me to tear it apart, and pretty easy to get in there. Now the couple things, and I showed you this, I'll show you this, the ducting. You want to make sure that your ducting is nice and secure. Usually it will have on the inside, it will have a nipple that sticks out, and on the outside part, it will have a reverse nipple. And it'll be on the top, the bottom, sometimes the sides. And so when you put it in, it's gonna be like click, click. Well, if it doesn't click, in this case, it was like this. So the blower motor is pulling the air in, and then the ducting that goes to the blower motor was sitting like this. So it wasn't even pulling in all the way cool air into the high voltage battery, because it would go from the blower motor around the ducting and then push it into the high voltage battery. And so in this case, it was pulling hot trunk air as well. So you want to make sure that you get all your ducting in right. Make sure you get everything snapped in perfect before you start putting clips in. That's really, really important. These batteries need ventilation. That's why they have their own blower motors that are dedicated to nothing but the hybrid system, the hybrid battery. So you want to make sure that you really double check that, and that you're positive that everything is correct. Okay, so pretty much the only thing I didn't show you in this video was disconnecting the cables. And this one I showed you earlier, there was the 2 high voltage cables, and then there was the positive cable over here. You need to disconnect those 3, and then it's all the perimeter bolts that you have to undo, and then you just take the battery out. Now these things are really heavy, so get a helper to help you get it out. So, I mean, if you worked in a dealership or something, I mean, I think they have adapters, and you can use a picker to put it in if you want. Most of the guys that I work with, we're not going to go through all that trouble. We're just going to pick it up and and put it in there. Maybe even get an extra person to help, just to do it quicker. We don't want to spend all day trying to take a battery in and out. Generally, you can get it in and out with a friend, and have no problems. So, and then pretty much it's the same as reverse install. Just when you're putting that battery in, you want to make sure that you set it all the way flat. Make sure that none of the edges are bent. Start all your bolts and then run them all in. You want to make sure that it's not cockeyed, twisted, or anything like that. So that's how you diagnose a failed hybrid battery, and that's how you go about proving it, and then that's how you go about replacing it. So, and when you're done, you want to make sure that your high voltage disconnect, remember I showed you, you're going to pull it up and then click it forward and then pull it out. Okay? When you put it back in, make sure that you push it in, flip it up, and make sure you push it down. And you always want to give it like a little tug, because if it's not all the way down, it'll pull right back up. And if it's not all the way down, it won't make connection, and you'll have all kinds of codes, and you'll have lots of problems. So that's how you do it. That's how you diagnose it. Thank you for watching the video. I hope this was informative for you. If you've never done one before, hopefully I helped you not be so nervous. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell. You get notified of all my future content, which you're definitely going to want to see. Also check me out on Instagram at Nuts and Bolts with Tone for the daily life as a mechanic. And thanks, and see you next time.